we'll be discussing about the project where we will be linking or connecting our Python to the SQL in the local system, and we'll be inputting the queries with the help of the Python and executing the same queries with the help of the Python in the SQL command line, and we'll be fetching the output from there to display it on the Python front end. Now let's discuss about the code and line by line. Initially, we import all the necessary libraries for this project, which is CX Oracle. With this CX Oracle, we'll connect our Python to the local host system SQL server. Next, we'll be importing Thinker, which will be helpful in creating the user interface. Initially, we'll declare two variables, username and password, as global variables. We'll define a new function named execute query with host and query input parameters. Initially, we will make the connection equal to none such that there is no connection. After that, with the help of the CX Oracle library, we'll try to connect with the username and the password input from the user. If the connection is established, we'll take the control of the cursor to this variable cursor. As the user have already entered, like we have already got the query as a parameter, so we'll be executing this query with the help of execute function. Now we need to display the user about the result of the query. So if the user enters a create table command and if the query executes successfully, we will be displaying a separate window named success and the message will be table created. If there is a drop table command, then we will be displaying the table is dropped. If the table is altered, then we will be displaying table altered. If we have truncated the table, then we'll be displaying table has been truncated. Now, if the user inputs or wants to get some data, he will be using some select commands. For these select commands, there will be a defined output in the SQL. We need to fetch that SQL output and display it on the Python front end. So we'll be using columns variable, which fetches all the column names, that is the headers of the table, and the rows variable will fetch all the data from the table. Next, we'll be opening a new window named query result, where we will be displaying all the fetched headers and the fetched data. We'll be using a for loop for this, where we'll be displaying the headers in a row with the help of this for loop. And next, we will be displaying the data with the help of this double for loop. Next, after displaying this, if the user did not enter select command, if he enters like commands like manipulation commands like insert, update, delete, if he have entered, the user have entered an insert command, we'll be displaying a one rows created. If there is an update command, we'll be checking, we'll be verifying the number of rows updated and displaying the n rows updated message. If he has been deleting some data from the table, will be displaying n rows deleted. Finally, if there is a different type of command excluding all these types, then we'll be displaying query result, queries executed successfully. Next, if the user query has is a type of insert, update, or delete command, we need to commit so that the data will be saved. Next, if we get an error in executing the SQL query, then we will be displaying with the help of this line error executing the query, and E is the error which we get in the SQL. Finally, if the code works properly, then we will be closing the connection. Next, we'll be creating a run query function with host localhost etc and query equal to we'll be getting the input here from the user with the help of this line, and we'll be removing the semicolon from the end of the line, and we'll be calling the function this function execute query. Now initially if the user want to use this Python, he need to connect to the SQL. To set that, we need to take the credentials from the user as an input. We'll be declaring the username and password as usual and getting the username and the password entry from the user. If user or the password, any one of the string is empty, we'll be displaying username and password cannot be empty message with a warning window. Or else we'll be using a try catch block where we'll be try to connect. If the connection or the credentials from the user are correct, we'll be using this part of the code. Next, we'll go through the interface creation. In this window, we'll be first creating a login window with a full size. Next, we'll be placing a username label with the input field and a password label with the password input field. We'll also add a login button where on clicking this button, it will trigger the function set credentials. This is a security purpose, like where we'll be verifying the correct username of the password from the user. If the username and the password are correct, we'll move on to the next part of the code, which is creating the main window. In this main window, we'll be first creating a new window with the name SQL Query Tool. We'll be fetching the screen width and height so that on opening this application will be directly the screen will be full width. Next, we'll be adding a text field on the top middle displaying SQL data voyager. Next, to take the input, we'll create a label enter SQL query and an input field for that SQL query. Next, we need to create a button, which is an execute button, which triggers a run query on the click. We click on this execute button, run query will be executed. Here we can adjust the size of the buttons and everything with the help of this paddx variable. We'll be going and seeing that there will be two variables bg and fg. The bg is used to set the background color and the fg is set used to the font color. They will be using LVTCF font with a 30 size based on the new to get the good interface. We'll be using the size and the boldness for every text to get the correct output. Initially, we will be getting the input from the user. The set credentials function will be called, and if the credentials are correct, we'll go on to connect with the SQL. If not, we'll be displaying a warning box. The credentials are correct, we'll be executing the run query command. In this run query function, this run query function will be getting the query input from the user, and that query is passed as a parameter to the execute query function. And the execute query function will try to get the connection to the SQL, and it will execute the SQL. And based on the SQL, like if the create table, drop table, alter table, or truncate table, it will display the correct message. And if there is a select command, we will be fetching the rows and the columns from the SQL and displaying in the separate window query result. Else, now if the type of the query is insert, update, or delete, we will be displaying the rows created or rows updated or rows created based on that, and it will go on. Now, let us execute the DA1 queries one by one. Check whether the Python application is working properly or not. First, we'll be creating the authors table. First, to run the application, we have to start it. Now, we need to enter the credentials here for the connection. Mm. So, we'll be giving the query for creating the authors table. So, we have got the output that the table is created. Next, we'll be creating the next table. We'll be creating the members table. The members table is also created. So, we'll be creating the generous table. Generous table is also created. We're creating the publishers table. Table is created. So, these are the basic create table commands. Yes, created this table. Two more tables left. We're creating the loans table now. This is the last table. Now we have created all the tables. We'll start inserting the data into it. We'll be inserting the first data into the author. As we have completed the creating the tables, now we'll be inserting the data into the tables. First, we will be inserting the values into the table. We'll be starting with author table. One row is created. The second row is created. Third row is created for the authors table. We'll be inserting data for the members table now. Is summary. So we'll be inserting values for the members table. We'll skip this part of the code where we are inserting the values, and we will move after the second query. Adding the data for the publishers table, the Primo table set. I have completed inserting all the data into the table. Let's move on to the next queries, which involves different functions. This query is to create a new table book ratings with primary key book ID and a rating with a decimal. So let's create the table. So the book ratings table has been created. Need to insert a new data into this book ratings table. Here, the rating ID will be R001, will be given book ID and a rating. So the row is created into the book ratings table. The next question is need to delete a book with loan details who has loan ID as 001. I've already seen the loan details table. We need to delete this specific row with the loan ID 001. Let's do that with the help of this query. So yes, the row is deleted. Let us check whether the row is deleted or not. See, the L001 row has been deleted. Now let's move on to the next query. The next query is the application query. Here we'll be getting the average rating for the book ratings. And executing this, we will be getting the average rating. To see the average rating considering all the books records, book rating records. Next, the next query, we need to display the name, comma, loan ID from the members under loans table. Here, we need to join the members table, this table with this loans table and display the member and the loan ID. Yes, we can do that with the help of this query where we use natural join. We have been displaying the name and the loan ID for each record. Now let's move on to the next query. The next query, in this we need to get the book ID and the genre type of the book, which has genre ID 001. We can do that with the help of this query where we are using a natural join between table books 2 and the genre table, and we are giving a condition only where the genre ID is G001. Let's execute this query. On executing this query, we have got a record which we have it the genre ID as G001. So let's move on to next query. The next query, we need to fetch the book ID and the member ID, the table where the out date or the out time year will be 2024. With the help of this query, we'll be getting the book ID and the member ID, duration and the table. We'll be using natural join between loan details table and the loans table with a condition where the year from the out time will be is equal to 2024. So we have got these are the two records which will be having the out time year as 2024. So let's move on to the next query. This query will be updating the out date based on the months further loading. So we have got the updated data. So this is the complete project where we are linking the Python with the backend SQL and fetching the output from there, displaying it on the Python frontend. This will eliminate the command line interfaces problem in many ways. This will be helpful for the user to work with SQL very smoothly. Thank you.